Lonnie, are you on, buddy?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Good morning. How we doing?
Fantastic. 'Cause I didn't notice your name was spelled wrong. I just fixed it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No worries. All right, guys. So for y'all that don't know, Lonnie, you're fairly new at F&G, correct?
That's correct. I've been in the industry for about 12 years at another carrier, but yes, to F&G, I've been here, I was here earlier this year.
Okay, cool. So obviously we have Larry, um, who does all the IUL stuff for us, and Lonnie's going to work with Family First Life to help drive the annuity volume. So we're going to turn it over to you. I'm here if you need me, but I'm going to mute out. If you need anything, let me know. We usually run for 30, 35 minutes, but the floor is yours. Just let me know if you need anything, and I appreciate you for hopping on.
And can you folks see me as well? Okay. I just want to make sure
Yep,
it's
I
always
can
nice
see
to
you.
have, okay, it's always nice to have a face and not just slides, right?
And yeah, you should have the ability to share your screen.
Yep.
Let me know if you
Yeah.
have any issues.
Yep. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks so much. Again, my name is Lonnie Stewart, National Accounts Manager with F&G. As Frank mentioned, I'm on the annuity side of things. At F&G, we do annuities and straight life insurance. On the annuity side, that's a very important bulk of our business. And so if you're not currently kind of utilizing annuities in your businesses and your practices, I would strongly encourage you to look into doing so because it's what can really kind of take your business to the next level in regards to success and of course making money, right? So what I'm going to do today here is going to walk through just a few different things, just very briefly. Why, what it, just very briefly, what an FIA is, why FIAs, why now, what they are, the primary benefits of them. I'll walk through a couple of our different product solutions, and then towards the end, share a couple pieces of good news that I have to share as well. So I'm just going to jump right in regards to why FAs, why now. For those of you who may not be overly familiar with the product, FIA stands for Fixed Indexed Annuity. What that is a contract with an insurance company that offers the potential for growth based on the performance of a market index, most usually something like the S&P 500, while also guaranteeing your principal, which is your initial investment plus any applied interest credits. It's considered somewhat of a long-term saving option that can or cannot, depending on the product, provide a stream of income in retirement. So when we look at it here, the first and foremost, it provides principal protection. That is where the fixed part of the fixed indexed annuity comes from. Fixed meaning that you can never, there is no downside risk. You can never lose any money. So it's going to be considered, more of a conservative, kind of safe money asset to utilize. It does act sort of like an investment vehicle when you say, okay, well, this is insurance, but it does act similar to an investment vehicle where it is, depending on the product purchase, the intent is for either accumulation or for guaranteed lifetime income, which I basically kind of call creating pensions for your clients. And we'll dig a little bit deeper into that over the coming minutes here. As mentioned in the prior slide, the growth of the product is index linked, and I like to concentrate on the word linked. The reason that we are able to provide no downside risk and only upside to it is that we are not actually investing funds into things like the S&P 500, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, etc. I'm not going to get too down into the weeds with it. I can always answer questions afterwards, but the way we're able to do that is we are purchasing options either yearly, depending on if it's a 1 year, a 2 year allocation, and you can reallocate those every year, every other year, et cetera. So basically what we're doing is we're purchasing an option where, hey, if the S&P is up in a given time period, it will pay out. typically up to a given cap or participation rate, which we'll walk through here. If the market is down, of course, the client is not going to make any money. However, they are not going to lose money either. Something I like to refer to as zero is your hero. So just very, very briefly in regard to how they make money and how we're able to offer no downside risk and upside potential. As we're walking through how they work, you'll kind of see how these are going to be considered either for folks as part of their conservative or less risky part of their portfolio, or folks that just simply don't have the stomach for downside risk of 2008 happening again, et cetera, et cetera. And finally and foremost, you'll see that a lot of these are going to be geared towards folks at or near retirement. The reasoning behind that being, hey, they've worked decades saving for their retirements, and they're getting close to retirement, and so time is more their major asset than upside potential. And by that I mean, if there was some sort of major downturn or even a couple small ones that can significantly hinder sometimes their retirement plans, so they would much rather have the no downside risk with a little bit more limited upside potential in the long run as they are in and approaching retirement. So we'll kind of walk through that as well. As I mentioned, no direct market investment. The products may or may not provide a guaranteed income stream, which we'll talk about. Within annuity products, FIAs, there is tax deferred growth. By that meaning that while the money is within the products, as they make money annually, every other year, whatever. Unlike some things like CDs and other sorts of low risk investments where they may have to go in and pay their interest every year, et cetera. The growth is deferred in regards to taxes and tax reporting. By that, it's not reported until they are actually taking withdrawals, and then that is reported to the IRS as taxable income. So if they're in a product like this, whether it be for 1 or 5, 10 years or longer, and they don't take any withdrawals for 5 or 10 years until they retire, they're not going to see any tax implications until they actually begin taking those payments or those streams. So that's a big advantage for FIAs in and of themselves. Okay. And then finally, to mention with beneficiaries, any cash value is always going to be granted towards beneficiary upon the owner's passing. I always like to mention that because there are some folks out there, when they hear the A word, annuity, they may think, okay, well, when I pass away, it's just gone, and there's nothing left, nothing goes to my kids, etc. That is not true in these products. Any cash value on most of these products are going to be afforded to the noted beneficiaries on file. Does not have to go through probate or anything like that. So very simplistic in regard to beneficiary payout. Okay. So in regards to utilizing FIAs in your practice, why now? The number one thing right now is that there's two things really. One is that there are a lot of folks approaching and entering retirement, right? So where a lot of our funds will see coming in will come in from rollovers of 401ks, or other similar assets where they may be looking to, de-risk some or all of their portfolios as they are approaching and entering retirement. That is, of course, again, a non-taxable event. If we do a direct rollover, another huge benefit. So there is a lot of need and a lot of need for the products as of right now because of so many of these baby boomers, etc. You probably heard up to 10,000 a day often entering retirement and needing these products. The other thing to mention in regards to why now is the competitiveness. When it comes to annuities and fixed index annuities, a lot of what we're able to pay out in regards to competitiveness, whether it be caps or guaranteed payout amounts and things like that, is going to be dependent on the general interest rate environment in the macro economy. And as we know, interest rates seem to be high now. That may not be great for mortgages and borrowing money and things like that, but it is actually good for investing, particularly in lower risk investments. So, since interest rates in the general economy are higher, we are able to offer higher caps, higher rates, higher guaranteed payouts, higher monthly checks for pension payouts, things of that nature. So again, um, very competitive right now, and there is a lot of demand for it right now via the folks entering into retirement, and also honestly just worrying about the ups and downs of the market right now with what's going on. Are we going to have a correction soon, etc.? Okay. So with our annuities, just very briefly here, there are ones called multi-year guarantee annuities. Those, most of you have heard those as referred to as MIGAs. That's going to be a more simplistic, straight up fixed rate annuity. It may pay out, it'll have a time frame to it, 3, 5, 7, or 10 years, etc. It may pay out right now 3, 4, 5%, somewhere in there. What we're going to be looking at today are the fixed indexed annuity, where it is not a guaranteed interest rate unless you're putting it all into the fixed bucket, which I'll show you here. But however, there is more upside potential. So instead of making a 3, 4, 5% fixed interest rate, the client may be looking at making 4, 5, 6 or even greater per year, due to tracking of the markets, as in the S&P 500, etc. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is two products in particular. I like to kind of say with annuities, there's really kind of two sides to the FIA coin. One is going to be safety and accumulation, and the other is going to be the guaranteed lifetime income that they can provide. Okay, so we're going to be concentrating on this one right here, which is the accumulation, and this one right here, which is going to be the guaranteed lifetime income today. Okay, so let's start with the safety and accumulation. Just walking through a little bit, I've already kind of talked about it here a little bit. For folks that may either be getting towards or into retirement, or folks that are just looking to de-risk because they don't want that much risk. There tends to be, in the general equities markets, the assets, etc., in regards to stocks, things like that, about twice a year, there's a 5 or more percent decline, about every 18 months, approximately a 10% or more, every few years, 15% or more, and about every 6 years, approximately, there is a 20% or more decline in the stock market in general, and that can spell some very bad things for folks that are either looking to de-risk, are in, or are nearing retirement. Okay. Another thing I like to mention is, a lot of the general public out there may think, hey, okay, if I lose 5%, I need to make 5 to get back to where I was. If I lose 10, I need to make 10. That's actually not true. What this chart shows here is that if we would have some sort of pretty large market correction, as an example, 20%, folks actually need to make 25% just to get back where they were, let alone get back on the path of growing. I think that's very important to understand for both agents and clients in and of themselves. If you're down 20% and you need 25 just to get back to where you were, that can spell major problems for folks that are getting ready to retire or are in retirement. Very bad things. So one example to look at for one of our solutions in regards to an accumulation product we refer to as our Performance Pro. It's a fixed indexed annuity with a very good growth potential. It does have a strong bonus to it and a low fee, which we'll kind of briefly walk through here. As of right now, depending on the states, as you know, there may be some light states, etc., but in a majority of states, the product does come with a 15% bonus over the course of a 10-year surrender schedule. 10 years on FIA is very common in regards to surrender schedule and commitment. As I mentioned earlier, they're considered somewhat of a little bit longer term commitment. However, with folks out or near retirement or looking for safety, that's perfectly fine. Okay. So again, protected growth, no downside, with more upside than just putting money into the bank or into a CD or something like that, or even a fixed interest rate MIGA, much more upside potential. Okay. So there's a lot of verbiage on this one here, but the important things to look at here are that we can write the product up to and including age 80. Okay. The minimum premium to get it started is $10,000. As I mentioned, there's going to be a 10-year surrender period to it. Very common within these products. They after the first year, they can take up to a 10% penalty-free withdrawal. And then after the 10-year surrender schedule, it's fully liquid and they can do whatever they want with it. Okay, again, a 15% bonus included, which is very strong bonus on all your premiums. Again, we're seeing a lot of funds coming over from 401ks, rollovers, IRAs, things like that, where we can get them a very large bump up front and then some strong growth along the way as well. Okay. So, as I mentioned, how do these things grow, right? There are various indexing options that we refer to them as, okay? And in the interest of time, I'm not going to walk through all of them. What I will do is afterwards, I'll provide some follow-up information that walks through all of them. There's websites, all those great things. But the important thing to note here is that there are some good diversification options. In college, when I was in business school, that's what I was taught. Diversify, that's probably going to be your best friend. What I will walk through just to kind of get you to get a little bit of a feel of how they work. I would point out probably the most common one here is just going to be the straight S&P 500 1-year annual point to point, which would be this one right here. And what that one is let's say that we issue a product on July 1st of this year. We'll take the S&P 500 reading. And then on July 1st of next year, at the first anniversary, we'll take that reading again. And whatever the gain is over the course of that year, we will apply or credit to the client's account up to a cap of 6.5%. So again, it's not meant to outperform the S&P 500 or the equities market. It's meant to give some good return with that downside protection that a lot of folks are looking for, right? So that is a very good example right there. So as an example, if the S&P for that 1 year returned 3%, they're going to get a credit of 3. If it returns 6, they're going to get 6. If it returned 10, they're going to get that 6.5% cap. If the S&P was down 5 or 10 or 15%, they're going to get a 0. However, they're not going to lose any money. They'll still have their same balance. Again, instance of where 0 is your hero in that instance, right? Losing no money. Sometimes that can be just as good as gaining 5 or 10%, right? Another example I want to kind of briefly walk through here that has had some very good returns lately is this gold commodity. It's going to be very similar where there's a 1-year point to point to it. This one actually has a 7.25% cap. What we do on that, taking a little bit of a closer look, it's not gold per ounce. What we're doing is we're following the London bullion markets, okay? So we're following the price of the London markets. And I just wanted to walk through a quick example to show you how powerful this can be in regards to returns, okay? So I just yesterday, I went through and since we're right around the first of the month here, I went back and just pulled July 1st prices for over the past 3 years, okay? So going back to 2022, let's just say that a client had issued this product in 2022. At that time, the gold price was $17.97. A year later, it was $19.12. A year after that, it was $23.29. And just this July 1st, it was up to $33.49. So as we know, gold has been going up quite a bit, and that's some great return right there. So just showing you here, first of all, you have your 15% bonus that we got them at issue, right? On the first year return, that would have been a 6.39% return. And then the 2 subsequent years, it would have capped out because it actually rose more than 7.25%. Okay. So just off the last few years, being in the gold commodity, being within this product, the client would have seen over a 35% gain, which is very strong, particularly considering that there was no downside risk to the client, right? that is very, that's where that's the power of FIAs. Instead of just having the money safely sit in the bank in a savings account, maybe their banker is trying to get them to throw it into a CD, making 2-3%, maybe a fixed MIGA at 3 or 4. Hey, you know what? We can often do much better than that. And this is a prime example of that. Okay. Again, as I mentioned, if you're not sure of which ones to track, after doing some research, one, you can either review some of the correspondence I'll provide on your own, or you can call into our sales desk during business hours, and we're happy to walk through any of those with you. If anything else, the bottom line is, as I mentioned earlier, go ahead and diversify. You don't have to go into all one allocation. You can split it up 5 different ways, 10 different ways, however you like, across several of those indices that I showed you earlier. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of it. Another option in regards to how one can pay out is a participation rate. You may have heard of that as well. Instead of a cap, there may be, say, a 30, 40, 50% participation rate. And what that means is that the client is participating in that percentage of the return. So let's say there's a 50% participation rate, and in that given year, there's a 10% return. The client will participate in 50% of that 10%, or 5%. Okay, so there's a couple different ways within those indices to do it. The most simplistic is the S&P and the gold, and the most simplistic to show your clients is the cap, up to a maximum and with no downside. Okay. I always just like to finish up on this product by showing this graphic. This is probably our #1 graphic in regard to accumulation product. Basically, what this shows is a product like the Performance Pro going up against the S&P 500 in general, etc., or an account with no bonus on it. Basically, what this is showing, the gist of it is of course the no downside, right? It's showing good, steady upside growth with no downside. That's the gist of this piece. It's a great way to illustrate and show your clients how these products work, and we can provide those to you as well. Okay. An idea in regards to this product is market recovery and jumpstart. I kind of talked about that already. You may have some clients you're working with that are like, hey, I just recently lost 5, 10, 15%. I'm really starting to sweat here. I don't know if I have the stomach for this. We're going to retire in 5 years. What do you recommend? Well, what you can do is not only can you provide them no downside, but you can also say, hey, listen, we're going to give you a 15% bonus, which that's going to make up for what you lost recently. So you're a hero in both aspects, right? You're getting their loss back, you're protecting them moving forward, and you're getting them some good growth potential. Kind of a little bit of a marketing or sales idea. The last thing I want to mention before jumping into the income is when less is more. And I really want to want you to look at this slide, because I know there's some product out there where you might say, hey, there's product out there with a larger bonus. And there is. I get that. Okay. In particular, I know competitor A there is probably pretty familiar with a lot of your group. However, what you need to do is you need to pay very close attention to fee drag. Okay. The fee on our Performance Pro that we've just walked through is 0.1% per year, 10 basis points. That product, that competitor A product with a 20% bonus, that annual fee is 0.95% or 95 basis points per year. So looking at it very simply, over that 10-year surrender schedule, competitor A is going to be pulling 9.5% fee total from their product, a lot. A good chunk of that bonus, and as it makes money, that fee is only going to increase. Where with our product, you're only going to see a 1% total pull, 10 basis points times 10, right? A significant difference, over 9% difference just in fee. So please pay close attention to that fee drag, and not just, kind of the pretty lights of that large bonus, as I like to say, right? Because it is a very strong, selling point. I understand that. Just always pay attention to both sides of it, both the bonus and the fee aspect, okay? This here, again, I just want to show that we have some great marketing materials. You could, if you're actively appointed with us, or if you're going to get appointed, you can pull them directly off our agent portal, which is called Sales Link. Or again, you can call in to our number, the internal desk number, which I'll provide at the end. And we're happy to provide those to you as well if you like, to kind of help you with your marketing, your meetings, etc. Okay. Just briefly, want to kind of look at the other side of the coin in regards to fixed indexed annuities. That's going to be that lifetime income rider. Essentially, what you can do is it's the only product on the market, an annuity with a guaranteed lifetime income rider, that where you can essentially create a private personal pension for your clients. What does that mean? That means that we can set up an FIA when they decide they want to retire and turn the payments on. They will begin receiving a monthly stream of payments, very similar to a pension or a Social Security payment. And regardless of if their account balance reaches zero, it does not matter. That payment will pay out every month, guaranteed for as long as they live. If they live to 5 years, if they live to be 80, 100, it does not matter. So very similar to a pension or a payout similar to like a Social Security payment. When you ask folks when they're preparing to retire, hey, what is your biggest concern? I guarantee you probably 9.9 times out of 10 is going to be running out of money, right? That's what we're all worried about. And essentially what that is that is referred to as longevity risk. What we can do is we can cure that longevity risk with this product, okay? So that our other product that can provide that guaranteed lifetime income stream is referred to as our Safe Income Advantage. Okay, very similar aspects to the Performance Pro, where we can write it up to age 80. There's a $10,000 minimum, things like that. So how are we calculating how much that guaranteed payment is going to be? Within this product, there are 2 account numbers. Okay, then this is important to see how we do this here. There's a cash value, and then there is an income-based value. They're 2 different things. They do 2 different things, and they grow in 2 different ways, okay? The cash value is going to grow exactly like the Performance Pro in regards to S&P 500 annual point-to-points and things like that. The caps are going to be significantly lower on this product because we have put all the investment into the guaranteed income rider, okay? On the flip side, where this product really shines is that income base. Basically, what we're doing is, let's say they put $100,000 in, that income base, as you see here, is going to grow by a 7.2% compounded interest rate. Okay. And then when they decide they want to turn on the income stream, we're going to apply a percentage of the total income base. That percentage is going to be based on how old you are, and if you're taking a joint or single income, which we have both of those options. If you're taking a straight payment for life, if you're taking an inflation-based increasing payment, etc. And we'll look at an example here of how that works. Okay. Again, most of this I've talked about, our 7.2% compound roll-up rate. There is a fee for that rider, but it only comes off of the cash value, not the income value. Okay. There's different payout options, as I mentioned. And then there's something I want to speak about here in regards to the impairment multiplier, which we're very proud of as well. So just to mention here, as I already said, there's a fixed guaranteed stream for the rest of your life, meaning that if the calculation is $25,000 a year, you get that $25,000 a year every year for the rest of your life. There are inflation-based options, and then there is a straight 3.5% annual increase option to combat inflation. Obviously, those 2 bottom ones are going to start off as lower payments, but after about 7, 8, 9 years, they're going to meet and surpass the fixed option. Okay. I will say that the fixed option is the most, it is the most popular one since it starts higher, but it's great to have these options. Okay. Folks that are at or near retirement, it's pretty much of a when, not if they're going to have some health concerns. Okay. So we have some things worked into the policy where they can take money, 100% pen free if they have home health care needs, if they're in a nursing home, etc. If they're declared to have a terminal illness, we want them to be able to have their money for their bills. But most importantly, we have what's called this impairment multiplier. And what that is that it is not confinement based. Basically, if a client can't conduct 2 of 6 daily activities of daily living, we will double their income payment for a single life payout, and we will increase it by 50% on a joint life payout. Essentially, what this is this is folks getting more money when they need it most. Okay, just a little bit of kind of data here. There's approximately 1.2 million people currently residing in nursing homes. About 50% of those folks are age 85 and older. Those types of things can be very, very expensive. So as an example, if the calculated guaranteed lifetime income payment is $25,000, we will double it to 50 if it's a single payment until the contract reaches 0, then it'll revert back to the original 25,000. Okay. So this is a great addition for folks that may not have nursing care coverage, or they can't afford it, they can't qualify for it. It certainly in no way replaces nursing home care or something similar to that, but it is a heck of a Band-Aid that can help out. And again, this is just automatically worked into their guaranteed lifetime income payments. In regards to this chart here, what this is this basically just shows our competitiveness. This is several options in regards to age and years of deferral. The numbers there show where we rank. So I just wanted to show how competitive we are with our guaranteed income. What I would call the retirement hot zone right in there in the 60s, deferring for anywhere from 0 to 7 or 8 years typically. We're going to be hard to beat. We're typically number 1 in the income space. That's our number 1 product. Okay. So as a quick example here, I just want to see if I can pop up something showing you how easy this is. Everyone can see that, right? Okay. So this is our portal website. If we log in here, click on the FIA calculator here. And it literally takes a minute or less to do. Valued agent. We pick our product here. Let's see, single, let's say the client is 60 years old. There's $100,000 premium in there. Inflation rate 2%. So let's calculate that. So literally in just 1 minute, I was able to calculate that. And if you, again, you can log in and do this if you're currently appointed with us, or you can call into our sales desk and we can assist that for you. Putting in $100,000 here. If they wanted to start the income right away at issue, they would receive $6,800 a year payment. If they wanted to wait till they're 65 and retire, that would be almost $11,000 a year, et cetera, et cetera. Here is that impairment doubler. Now, some of you may look at this and say, hey, so $10,000 doesn't really sound like a lot, but let's just kind of do some math here. Let's say, that was $100,000. So how long would $100,000 last a client? Let's say they retire at 65 and that payment is $10,887. It would basically, that $100,000 would last them about 9 years before it would run out. So they wouldn't even make it to 75. Okay. This would pay out regardless of if they live to 75, 85, 100, it would pay out that same amount. So let's go in and modify that here. Let's change that to 500,000. That's going after a 5-year deferral. Let's say they're 60, they retire at 65. Now we're talking a little bit more. Now we're talking $54,000, right? If a client had $500,000 and they were let's say they're following the 4% rule, that's only $25,000 a year they could safely pull following a 4% rule. This is getting them $54,000 a year guaranteed for the rest of their life. Okay. Or if they had that $500 and they were spending that 54,434 a year, that again would only last them 9 years and it would run out. Okay, again, just a couple quick numbers here. About 30% of Americans are expected to live to at least age 85. And that number is going to even grow further than that. Let's say if that 54,434, when they retire at 65, let's say they live to 90, yeah, right? They're going to live for another 25 years. That means that this product will have paid out $1.3 million for them monthly, right? It's very similar to a pension with a $500,000 investment. That's the power of guaranteed lifetime income. Okay. We'll flip back here real quickly. I know we're kind of getting there on time a little bit. So again, we have a lot of good pieces to help you along with your story, with your meetings, with your clients. You can pull them off our website, or you can call in and we can provide them to you. Some very, very good stuff in there. Okay. Here's a good thing to pull for that safe income advantage guaranteed income product. And I want to kind of button up with some very good news. Two things here. One is that we are doing specifically for FFL a top producer meeting event that is going to be in Portugal. So how do you can qualify for this. The qualifying time period is January through the end of the year. We are going to be taking the top 5 annuity writers and the top 10 life insurance writers. So this is a great perk for you, especially to get you going on if you write both annuity and life. So this is a great little perk, in addition to really taking your business to the next level by beginning to write annuity business within your practice. Okay. Again, you can contact us for more details, but this is a great thing that we're doing specifically for FFL. Okay. Another thing we're doing is that just starting the other day through the end of the year, all of our FIA products, we are going to pay out 0.5% more in commission above what we already pay. So basically a big commission boost. So again, if you haven't started utilizing annuities in your practice, FIAs in particular, you're thinking about getting into it, now is a great time to start. Everything I've just talked about, the competitiveness, the need for it by the clients, qualifying for a great trip, and really boosting your commission. Everything is pointing towards now is the perfect time to start utilizing these, marketing these, and working with your clients in regards to FIA and FIA annuity business. Okay. I would maybe recommend taking a quick shot of this or writing the number down. That number right there is the sales link, the number to our sales desk. Call anytime during business hours, and they pick up right away. They're happy to walk through illustrations, product questions, index questions, you name it. They're very knowledgeable and are more than happy to help in addition to myself. Okay. With that said, I know we're kind of getting there on time, so I will kind of kick it back here to see if anyone has any questions, thoughts, concerns, anything like that. There was quite a bit of content there, but I did want to briefly touch on our accumulation product, our guaranteed income product, how they work, and the good news that we have in regards to the trip and getting more money out there for you. So I'll kick it back over.
Let me see. If any of y'all have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll try and get to them. We usually do a Q&A once every few weeks, Lonnie. So if you want to hop on again when we do that, you're welcome to. But everybody, I can't deal with people unmuting, so I mute everybody out because inevitably somebody comes on and unmutes and I hear a bunch of chatter and it sends me over the edge. So if y'all have any questions, put them in the chat. If not, we'll wrap it up shortly. So if when did the 0.5% increase go into effect? Exactly what date?
June 30th.
June 30th. Okay, so if I wrote an annuity, because I know I'll get this question, if I wrote an annuity on June 25th, but it hasn't issued yet, does that can count towards the extra 50 bips?
It's going to be date of application right here. Okay.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
it's a great question. But so yeah, we know that there can be some funding delays and things like that that could really
Yep.
just kind of muddy up the transition. So we just simply set it as app date.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Oh, I got a few questions. I'll get to as many of these as I can. Can you email me a copy of the presentation that you just used so I can share it with them? Or if you have a way for they can connect with you and you can email it to them, that'd be easy. Um, what happens to their investment guaranteed income for life if they pass away in 5 years?
So that'll be it'll just like with both products, the Performance Pro and the Safe Income Advantage, whatever the cash value is left in it at that time is given to the beneficiary. So if they pass away prematurely, let's say they put 500,000 in, they just started the payments, or maybe they hadn't even started them yet, so it's still going to be around 500,000. They hadn't started depleting it yet. Whatever that cash value is, that is what is afforded to the beneficiaries as payouts.
And that's a good question because that's one misconception that a lot of folks have about annuities is they think because a lot of the work-based annuity products are like that. If they retire today and they had $600,000 in their workplace annuity account and they start taking income and they drop dead, that money stays with the employee fund, retirement fund. With this, it's your money. So I like that question because people do think that it works the other way around and it doesn't.
Yeah,
So
I kind of tried to allude to that a little bit in there, where a lot of people, when they hear the A word, they kind of think of the old life only annuities, where as soon as you pass away, it's just over, even if it's a month after you start. That is certainly not the case here. They have cash values. They continue to grow until you start pulling the money out, and then there is going to be beneficiary payouts if there is money in there. So, oh, very great question.
does the 15% go towards the account value or surrender value?
It goes immediately towards the account value. So it's going to go towards both, but most importantly, it's going to go towards the account value. So if a client writes a contract for $100,000 as an example within the Performance Pro, when we issue it, you meet with your client, hand them the contract, and they sign off on it. The balance is 115.
Perfect. Okay. Um, do you guys have an automatic allocation system or do we have they have to do it every year, correct?
Well,
If,
depending on the choice, yeah, yes. I mean, there is going to be client portals and things like that, or you can. There's a few different options. Essentially, we send out a statement. There's going to be a document in there if they want to reallocate. But yeah, there's going to be a few different options for everybody. Yeah, it's going to be dependent on if they chose a 1 year option, a 2 year option, but a majority of the time it's going to be annually.
okay. Brenda asked, do you do these calls over phone call or Zoom? Do we have a presentation or do we explain over the phone? So this is more of a product or a selling question. Brenda, if you reach out to myself, John Gavin, David Allen, we can walk you through that process. Also, if you go to YouTube and search FFL National, click on the FFL National YouTube channel, go to the playlist, and you can look at the Annuity 101 trainings and some of the SRS calls in there. And people go about how they explain the annuities over the phone via Zoom, however they do it. But they're done both ways. Most of the time, it's done via Zoom. So you can show an illustration to the potential client and look at them eye to eye. It works a little bit better than just over the phone, but I'm sure people do it both ways. But I'm a big fan of the Zoom. Last question. Wait a minute. So at death, we don't get that in that first 5 years. Yeah, I guess you just answered that. There's a 15. No, David Allen asked a good question. Where to go? Oh, if a client dies during the surrender period, does any of the bonus get charged or clawed back?
No, basically, if there is a passing of the annuitant slash owner, right, the full contract value is going to be offered to the beneficiary. So there's no, there's as you would have seen in there, there's a surrender schedule and there's a bonus vest schedule. That only ever comes into play if the client is taking a withdrawal that is more than the 10% they're allowed to take per year during the 10-year surrender period. If they pass away, it doesn't matter if it's a month after issue, or whatever it would be. As I mentioned, that contract value immediately has the bonus applied, and that amount is given to the beneficiaries. Good question.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up because it's getting close to 12:45. We try to keep this under 45 minutes. But Lonnie, thank you so much, man, for sharing with us today. I appreciate it. Attendance was a little low. I guess people already started celebrating the 4th of July, which is weird because that's not till tomorrow and it's not a real holiday. And you own a business and you should be working. But that being said, the people that were on, thank you. We have it recorded. We'll play it. Lonnie, if you want to hop on the Q&A one week with us, I can invite you to do that too. And again, we're all trying to grow the annuity volume here, so anything you could do to help us is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump on there. Feel free to send me an invite, just to kind of finally throw out there. If folks want, in addition to calling into the sales team, if anybody wants a little more in-depth one-on-one training, whether that be a phone call, some Zoom, anything like that, we're also happy to help out with that as well. I know I kind of painted some broad brushstrokes with the product, so we can get as more in depth as you want. Certainly, just let me know. I thank you so much for the time and hope everyone has a great holiday. Okay.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend.